Hello, everyone, and welcome to UCEA's webinar on Summer Learning 101, Insights from Research, Program Design, and Practice. We're really pleased to have this amazing panel today to talk about summer learning. Summer learning programs are evolving beyond the traditional model of remedial summer school. Today, they are dynamic extensions of the school year that blend academic enrichment, youth development, to help students thrive both inside and outside this classroom. This webinar explores how high-quality summer learning programs can support districts, foster student growth, and service platforms. Our hope is that by examining the evidence base behind effective summer learning initiatives and identifying the key components that make these programs successful, we'll be able to prepare leaders and faculty to understand the important role of extended learning throughout the year. Whether you're a district leader, a program coordinator, or a leader or a faculty member, the session will provide valuable insights into how summer learning can be a powerful tool for educational equity, innovation, and sustained student achievement. This webinar has been done with the support and backing of the Wallace Foundation and their interest in both combining educational leadership and youth development programs. Today, we're joined by Dr. Catherine Augustine. She's a Vice President, Workplace Services and Real Estate at RAND and Director of the RAND Pittsburgh office. She's also Professor of Policy Analysis at the RAND School of Public Policy. Dr. Augustine has more than 20 years of experience conducting education research focused on improving academic, social, and emotional outcomes for students, specializing in out-of-school time. She evaluates implementation of reforms and assesses their impact. She is leading a national study on social emotional learning in 6 urban communities and is also examining academic outcomes of the community school model in a large urban district. Dr. Augustine recently conducted a 9-year study of summer learning programs and a systematic evidence review on summer programs based on the evidence tiers specified by the Every Student Succeeds Act, adding to the knowledge base of what works in summer programming. Dr. Liliana Polo McKenna has over 20 years of experience as an educator, nonprofit leader, program and curriculum design facilitator, and executive coach. She was the founding principal of West Brooklyn Community High School, an early community school serving youth 16 through 20. Dr. Polo McKenna has served as Vice President of School Leadership Support at the Leadership Academy and Chief Executive Officer of Opportunities for a Better Tomorrow, one of New York City's largest youth education and workforce development nonprofits. Liliana is a technical advisor with FHI 360, leading professional development for the district's Summer Learning Network, bridging research-based principles and practice in service of transforming summer learning for students across the U.S. She also supports FHI 360's Community Schools team in Hempstead, New York. Dr. Patrick Keeley is a purpose-driven educational leader with over 2 decades of experience in shaping school culture, elevating student voice, and building systems of support that prioritize the whole child. Prior to becoming superintendent of Mountain Empire Unified School District, he served as principal of Mountain Empire High School, his alma mater, where he led significant improvements in climate, culture, and student leadership. His leadership experience also includes roles as a high school principal, alternative education administrator, assistant principal, high school dean, ASB advisor, and social science department chair. Dr. Keeley was recently named State Superintendent of the Year for 2025 by the Small School Districts Association. Dr. Julianne Bello is a transformational leader who believes that every student deserves an exciting and empowering education on their way to reaching their own potential and capacity in society. In 2001, she fell in love with teaching as a substitute within the Newark Public Schools. Dr. Julianne Bello has held administrative positions in small and large urban and suburban districts. She returned to Newark as part of the Woodrow Wilson Teaching Fellowship, developing high school math and science student teachers and their mentors. She then served as vice principal and overall principal for the elementary summer school program for 3 years. She was appointed as the director of the Office for Extended Learning. Under her direction, the district's Excel Elementary After-School program has seen significant enhancements, providing a rigorous academic curriculum, enrichment opportunities, and a daily meal to 7,500 students in grade PK through 8. The reimagined Summer Quest enrichment program contributed to a national recognition by the New York Life Foundation's Excellence in Summer Learning Award in 2024. Thank you all so much for being here, and we're looking forward to, again, hearing from your experience and then having a conversation afterwards in ways that inform what we do in higher education to prepare leaders for 12-month learning. I believe we're starting with Dr. Augustine, so if we can feel free to take it away.
Okay, great. Thanks, Monica. Yes, my name is Catherine Augustine, and I'm a senior researcher at RAND, and I have led a fairly lengthy study on looking at summer programs that I'm going to tell you a little bit about today. Next slide. So most districts across the country offer some kind of summer program. They have been key to helping students recover from setbacks experienced because of the pandemic. And every summer, RAND surveys a representative national sample of school district superintendents. And that's how we know that most districts are offering a summer program. At least they were in 2024, with 84% of respondents saying they were. And every urban district reported offering a summer program last summer. And 91% of those districts were focusing at least on one academic subject, most frequently through having tutoring embedded in the summer program, and or direct instruction on reading or English language arts/literacy. Next slide, please. So we did a randomized control trial of summer programs across the country a few years ago now. So even though the study is somewhat dated, but doing a large RCT is rather rare. So I think the findings have held up well. We included over 5,000 students representing 5 school districts across the country, with 60% of them attending a summer program and the remainder serving in the control group. Next slide, please. And as Monica said at the beginning, summer programs do not look like the remedial summer programs that we all might have attended when we were in high school and sitting in hot buildings and just focusing on academics and probably drilling. And so the model that we looked at is very representative of the models you see today in school districts. So they tend to be free. They tend to last at least 5 weeks. The programs we studied did at least. And they also served students in small classes with no more than 15 students per teacher. The teachers in these programs were certified district teachers, and they were providing instruction for 3 hours on academics each day. And these programs were focused on both math and reading, so about 90 minutes on math and 90 minutes on reading. And they also, in addition to academics, offered what we were calling enrichment activities. So that included things like cooking and swimming and water polo and flag football and dance and theater. So those kinds of activities that they might not have had an opportunity to participate in during the school year. The kids were provided lunch and a snack, as well as breakfast in the morning with free transportation. And our evaluation focused on kids in grades 3 to 5. Next slide, please. So over the course of 2 years, we collected a lot of qualitative data, as you can see here on this slide: interviews, observations, etc. We had attendance records for all of the students, and we also both administered a standardized assessment in math and in reading right after the summer program ended to both the treatment and the control kiddos. And we also had access to their state tests in math and reading in the subsequent spring after the summer program. Next slide, please. So why should students attend these programs? What did we learn? First, we found that, well, the main heading is that students who attended regularly, which shouldn't be a surprise, it's not like you can show up for one day and you're going to benefit, and those who attended for 2 summers in a row benefited the most in terms of both math and reading. But we do have this short-term gain that we see in math just for students who attended for 1 year, and even regardless of attendance, the kids who completed the summer program outperformed the control group in math on those tests administered right after the program ended. Next slide. So after 2 summers, those students who had high attendance, so that's 20 or more days, remember these were 5 to 6 week programs, outperformed their peers not only in math, but also in reading, and we had a measure of social and emotional competencies as well. Next slide. And we were also able to do a threshold analysis. So we saw that students benefited in math if they had at least 25 hours of math over the summer. And they benefited in reading if they had at least 34 hours of reading in the summer. And not only did they perform better with this number of hours on the tests that we administered right after the summer program, but these benefits persisted so that we saw the treatment kids outperforming the control kids on that subsequent spring state test if they had those 25 hours of math and 34 hours of reading. Next slide. So it's probably a no-brainer that programs need to be of a certain level of quality in order for students to benefit. So I'm going to tell you what we learned from this study and also say that we've done subsequent evidence reviews of summer programs and see even in other studies that if programs are not of high quality, the kids aren't benefiting. They don't always benefit from summer programs. And in particular, we can't find a study of benefits for students academically of programs that are offered for fewer than 4 weeks. So I'll tell you what these programs looked like, but also know that we have evidence from other studies as well. And because so many districts are offering summer programs, we think it's critical to get this message out that if you're going to invest in a summer program and you're going to spend the money on it, which is getting harder to do these days in terms of having funding for these programs, they really need to be of high quality. Next slide. All right, so what did we find that made these programs effective? And so we basically have these 8 key factors we talk about. Early planning, so starting to plan in the fall for the next summer, and that allows for things like the curriculum to be there on day one, the buses to have, made their rounds successfully, so the kids are there on time, the teachers have been trained, et cetera. A lot of things have to be put in place for these programs to be successful. It's like having a whole new school year, but just with less time to plan for it. Effective teachers who know the kids and not necessarily each kid personally, but know that age group and know their subject well. Sufficient duration, as I've mentioned, that, to get those 25 hours of math in and 34 hours of reading, it's not just offering that amount, because on average, we found that kids attended about 70% of the time. So it's offering more than that. So we recommend at least 5-week programs. Consistent student attendance, which, as I said, is a no-brainer, a quality curriculum and instruction. So having effective teachers and a quality curriculum and teachers who are trained on it is incredibly important. Those engaging enrichment activities I talked about, whether it's cooking or dancing or flag football, plus having a positive climate in which kids are greeted when they enter with smiles and high fives. They're made to feel welcome. The teachers want them to be there. Those 2 things helped boost attendance, right? Those enrichment activities and having the positive climate. And we also have some recommendations for containing program costs as well, which, as I said earlier, is becoming increasingly important. So of these 8 factors, when we surveyed superintendents last summer in 2024, we asked them if they were doing things that were related to these 8 factors. And we found that 3 of these factors were more challenging for superintendents than others. So next slide, please. So the superintendents, most of them, 2/3 of them, reported struggling in terms of recruiting effective teachers, offering the programs for at least 5 weeks, and having a quality curriculum in place at the time the program started. So next slide, please. So if you're leading a program, from the district side, if you are a superintendent or an extended time leader, or if you're part of planning the program, if you're going to be a principal in the sites, we recommend that program leaders do the following. First, recruit early and recruit certified teachers from your district who have just taught the same subject. The teachers in our study were departmentalized, so they were either teaching math or reading, not both. And they were experts in that whatever subject they taught from the school year. And they had just taught the same either sending or receiving grade. Early on in our study, we saw that some high school teachers raised their hands and said, "Oh, I'd love to teach 3rd graders this summer. That would be fun." And once they started, they realized, what's a 3rd grade student? They didn't know what their standards were in math, or they were unfamiliar with their behavior and classroom management techniques. So hiring teachers who are familiar with the grade level is important as well. Next bullet. Also, providing teachers with daily lesson plans. Early on in our study, the teachers were given the leeway to create their own curriculum. And guess what? The teachers hated it. They did not want to create their own curriculum. They wanted to come in, have the lesson plans be ready for them for each day with differentiation suggestions. They wanted professional development ahead of time so they could familiarize themselves with the curriculum. The teachers in our study came back year after year after year because this was all provided for them. They were burnt out at the end of the school year. They did not want to be putting lesson plans together on top of doing the teaching. And when teachers created their own lesson plans early on in the study, not only did they not like it, but it was the lessons were not the same across the sites. And some kids had more instruction, some had less, some had higher quality, some had lower. So having one curriculum that all the teachers are following in the summer helps, relieve teachers of that load and also ensure that the kids are getting, the same instruction. Next bullet. And then finally offering 90 minutes of academics per subject a day. So if you're just focusing on reading, an hour and a half a day, you don't have to do 8 hours of reading in a day. In a 5-week or more program should get you to the dosage that we found actually benefits kids given typical attendance rates. We have other recommendations. You can go to the last slide, but we have other recommendations on our website on those other 5 of the factors that I did not talk about. So I'm going to stop here. We'll move forward with hearing from practitioners and hearing about some nationwide district network work, but I'm always available by email if anyone has any follow-up questions or wants to learn more.
Thank you so much, Catherine. As a researchers, we always like digging into some of that. So I appreciate your level of detail and offer of sources. Why don't we just move right into Liliana?
Thank you. My name is Liliana Paula McKenna, and as shared earlier, I'm a technical advisor with FHI 360, and I had the immense honor of leading the network professional learning for the District Summer Learning Network, also referred to as DSLN. So when you hear DSLN, that's what I'm referring to. I'm excited to share our work, which really focused on supporting leaders across the country in implementing and building on much of the research from RAND that Dr. Augustine just shared. Next slide, please. So quick information on FHI 360. We're a global organization that mobilizes research, resources, and relationships so that individuals everywhere can access opportunities to really live full, healthy lives and reach their potential. Much of our work focuses on public health, economic development, workforce development, and education. Dislin lives in FHI's 360 U.S. Education Department, where we really bring together best practices in education and youth development research, TA, and strategic communications. And we partner with traditional and out of school time schools, organizations, higher education to really form partnerships that help strengthen the conditions for young people to learn and to shape their own futures. And we do that through supporting systems and structures to address barriers that prevent them from thriving in work, school, and life. Next slide, please. So since January 2022, over 140 districts and state education agencies have participated in the District Summer Learning Network. DISLIN is a collaboration between FHI 360 and the Wallace Foundation designed to support districts in really shifting the summer learning paradigm from one of remediation and punishment to one that's really about transformational learning experiences that centers the needs of every student, enacts equity, and engages partners in meaningful and lasting ways. The DISLIN was built on these pillars that you see here and a core belief that high quality summer programs have the potential to unlock learning and engagement in ways that address inequities that were exacerbated by the pandemic and can provide students with rich opportunities to grow. Equity was an original pillar of our work. And over the past 3 years, what we've seen and heard from districts, some of whom you'll hear from today, is that equity is not a standalone set of practices. Rather, it is embedded into program design, into the kind of curriculum that districts select, how teachers are trained and supported, how families and students are engaged in design, and how districts think about really what partnerships help to meet students' needs. And so we are focused on academic quality, community partnerships, and whole child development. Next slide, please. It's a quick snapshot of who's in the network. So in 4 years, we have really built one of the largest projects in the country around summer learning. It's a project intended to help districts with planning for summer programs and became a nationwide network of over 140 school districts, 7 state education agencies, and 15 national partnerships spanning from rural districts to urban and representing 26 states. And we're incredibly proud of the diversity of our network and the variety of perspectives to shape this work. Next slide, please. So we've heard from Dr. Augustine about the evidence base for summer learning. And so along with supporting districts in implementing these practices in their local context, because that can look a little different depending on where you are, our commitment was also to support districts and states expand what was possible in summer and maximize those opportunities to help achieve existing system-wide vision and goals. For many districts, disrupting cycles of inequity was an important driver for their planning and design. We know that only 7% of children from families below the federal poverty level attended day camp in the summer. 38% of rising first grade children from families at or above 200% of the federal poverty level attended day camp in summer. 2 months of math skills are lost every summer for the average student, and 2 to 3 additional months of reading skills are lost for children from families with lower incomes. We know this was all exacerbated by the pandemic, and summer learning can really be a vehicle for mitigating their impact. Summer learning is also a chance to create avenues for acceleration, increasing engagement, and paving the way for success in future grades. It's clear that summer can be a game changer, but only if we shift that mindset of it being used as remediation and can think of how we can use it to expand and consider it an essential part of the school year. As you'll hear from my colleagues from Mountain Empire and Newark, it's also an opportunity to support innovations in teaching, capacity building of staff, and leadership development. Next slide, please. So I want to talk through some of the structures of the District Summer Learning Network. There's 4 main levels of support and engagement in our network. The first was technical assistance with a Disland consultant, and it was our top-rated support. Each district and state education agency was partnered with a consultant who served as their anchor to the research, tools, and resources of the network, and helped to elicit and identify district needs. Disland consultants served as coach, as facilitator to teams throughout their process, and helping engage multiple stakeholders to move from visioning to design to monitoring and reflecting. The second component was our network-wide professional development. So over the course of the year, there were five network-wide sessions where we would look at the research, we would connect it very intentionally to design and planning, and most importantly, share promising practices from across the network and problem solve together. Whole Group PD, as it was called, was a place to bring the tough questions about structure, about practice, but also the work of shifting the mindsets about summer learning and keeping change ambitious and doable. The peer-to-peer collaboration that was cultivated in the network space has been a really important, I think, value add for members of the network. We've also hosted an annual in-person full-day convening as part of the National Summer Learning Association Summit in Washington, D.C. And that's also an important opportunity to bring the learning face-to-face and have districts continue to build relationships and learn with and from one another. The third component more broadly is the networking and collaboration. We offered optional and self-selected consultancy groups based on what was most pressing to the network. These were 3 to 4 sessions max and focused on a very particular topic and product. For example, we held a 3-session series on using the Disland Multilingual Learner Success Tool, where districts who wanted to focus on that could develop a plan for how to better serve their students. Another example was a leadership series with districts across Minnesota that wanted to focus on communication strategies to support leading change. And finally, our older youth design series, where we design sessions where districts focus on how to build strong work-based learning summer programs for high school students. And finally, where did all these resources live? We had a resource hub that included tools developed for the network, case studies, videos, research reports, and exemplars from across the network that districts could access and share with their teams. Next slide, please. I do want to touch briefly on the Disland roadmap. Each district participating in the network completed a roadmap that sort of took a 3-year view of their summer learning planning. It was aligned to the evidence base and to the pillars of our work. And it really was intended to be a tool to support districts in crafting a plan that not only envisioned this positive and transformative summer learning, but helped them outline actionable steps to achieving that vision. Next slide, please. As I shared, Disland included districts from across the country, ranging in geography and demographics and their needs. And you're going to hear from 2 great examples in a minute. We know that a robust summer program includes rich opportunities for kids on every level, but we also know that districts can't do everything at once. And so this is where the coaching, the professional development, and the roadmap really became individualized. Leaders could choose to focus on areas that their district, their state were particularly invested in and had a sense of urgency around. This included, increasing engagement in summer learning for multilingual learners, building financially sustainable full-day programs where districts could really think about how to braid and blend funding and work with partners to achieve that. Or many districts were focused on, what does this look like for high school students? And so creating programming specifically for older youth that supported college and career readiness through those work-based learning experiences. Next slide, please. Our partnerships with state education agencies is something that emerged over the life of the network. The departments of instruction in Alabama, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and Rhode Island have partnered with us and selected districts in their state to participate as cohorts with the same coach to progress towards common goals around topics like sustainability, literacy initiatives, and opportunities for older youth. We worked with SEAs to convene districts from across the state, and supported them in figuring out how to make sure that the policies that were implemented at the state level also integrated the perspectives of districts across the state. Next slide. And so, what did this all mean for how effective the network was? This past school year, we surveyed districts to get a sense of how participating in DISLN impacted their summer learning planning and outcomes. 98% agreed that participating in the network helped them to improve in one or more areas. Program planning was at the top of the list, but also academic quality, how they strategized and cultivated partnerships, enrichment activities, and really seeing summer program as a key part of the district's goals year round rather than a separate effort. 100% of respondents said at least one of the supports helped their district in achieving their goals for program improvement, with coaching really being the highest selection for the type of support with the most impact. Um, so the impact story for DISLN is that our supports really help districts and states plan summer programs more effectively, which means that students, families, and staff find the programs more engaging, more interesting, more satisfying, more students attend, and the best teachers want to participate in these programs and come back summer after summer. Student impacts included improved academic outcomes, well-being, and a sense of belonging and community at school. When everyone wants to be there, summer programs are more sustainable. Next slide. Feel free to scan this QR code, which will bring you to our hub and our insights guide, where you can find examples of research in action from districts and states across the network. Lots of goodies on that site. Thank you.
Sorry, Liliana, I was trying to get to the QR code. Thanks so much. I think that was a great sort of segue from the research about what we know works and how to support and create structures that help districts and states make it work. And now we're going to hear from two superintendents who have been involved in improving and strengthening and building out their summer programs. So we will start with the superintendent of Mountain Empire Unified School District in California. So Dr. Keeley, can you take it away now?
Sure. Thank you. I think for us, I think we need to start with our story and our place. There's not a lot of conversations in our district that don't at some point lead to logistics, geography, things like that. So just kind of want to show you this is California, this is Southern California, this is San Diego County, and this is just a shot from home plate at our baseball field, and you can see in San Diego County we do get dustings of snow, and it impacts at times our school district, which impacts the school year. If you go to the next slide, it kind of show you a little bit better context of our school district. And if you can look at Mountain Empire, we are a small school district, although we're one of the larger geographic footprints in terms of school districts in the state of California. So that is 660 square miles. If you were to take the western end of our district and kind of put it on a hinge and flip it over, it's almost the size of the rest of San Diego County, without the North County section. The overall population of this area is a little over 12,000 people. So we serve about 1,600 students. And if you just kind of look at this map and the dead center of the district, or roughly the center there where it says Mountain Empire Unified, that is where our district office is. But you can see that we span all the way down to the Mexican border, to the Imperial County line is that straight line on the eastern portion, up into the Mount Laguna area, where the elevations go to about 6,000 feet there. Our district is impacted very often by weather patterns. We have schools that are 30, 40 miles apart. And so where you see Boulevard over there, we might have 70-mile-per-hour winds one day, which shut down school. for everyone in the district, including maybe our population in Descanso, who might only be experiencing 25-mile-per-hour winds. Those 70-mile-per-hour winds that we'll get at times, we won't be able to run our buses. We're also impacted by public safety power shutoffs. So when the humidity is really low and the winds are really high, and the weather is warm, that's a high fire risk. And so this year we had 11 days where SDG&E shut down the power in our district, which, given this summer learning, and I know that this is summer learning, we call it, we have it for year-round purposes. And because we were so honed in on what we can do with this summer learning during those power safety shutoffs, I was able to work with San Diego Gas and Electric to have them place generators out here at our high school, and we were able to get what we called Power Up Camp up and running during a time when the vast majority of this area was without power, so families could bring their children. This is in the middle of January. Ironically, that was high fire risk in January here. But we had about 250 students that their parents dropped them off. They were able to still go to work, and kids were able to continue on getting some programming. And that's really based on all that we've learned in doing the overall summer programming, was that we could switch on a dime and create programming in less than 24 hours at one point. Next slide, please. Understanding our story a little bit more. This is just kind of some statistics. 660 square miles of school district. We drive our buses 988 miles a day, so almost 5,000 miles a week that we drive our buses across this school district, which heavily impacts our overall budget. So when we talk about budget sustainability, a district like ours, highly under-resourced, 7% compared to, in San Diego County, most school districts, their transportation budget might be 2 to 3% of their overall budget. Ours is 7 plus. We have 4 elementary schools. We have a junior high and a high school. They're co-located in the same plant as the district office space. We have an independent study high school, alternative ed. We have adult ed. We have 4 preschools. We have 2 toddler preschools, and we have 5 charter schools. So I like to tell people we teach people from 2 to 100. We kind of cover it all out here for everybody. And because we have so many programs, people have multiple positions. So when I introduce, say, for example, the assistant principal for the high school, I also introduce her as the assistant principal for the junior high. When I introduce my director of alternative ed, I also he's my director of student services. Everybody's got about 2 jobs, at least. And so that's kind of one of the impacts that we have in a smaller yet expansive school district like Mountain Empire, which, if you go to the next page, this is just some census information from 2023 is the latest. And again, we're in San Diego County, which is one of the most expensive places to live. And if you look at Mountain Empire compared to the county, the per capita income in our school district is $37,000, roughly. In San Diego County, 51% is the overall county. If about 85% of our student population lives more at the 32,000 and change. Poverty line overall in the district, 16 and a half. Again, 10% in San Diego County, but about 85% of our district sits in an area of about 25% at the poverty line. Home values, you can see there, about half of what the rest of San Diego County is roughly valued at. And the reason I put home value in is when you talk about something like generational wealth and generational rural poverty, handing off a home in your family that's worth close to $1 million is vastly different than $400,000, right? So those kind of things create cycles in a rural area. And then if you look at just where college degrees land in San Diego County versus our school district, that impacts us in having teachers who live locally, who having quality substitute teachers and things like that. And the reason I bring this data up is because I believe this data is important to understand the value of the summer learning and the funding for it, which really didn't exist in California prior to COVID. Prior to COVID, it didn't really exist, and we didn't have summer programming at the elementary level at all. As a kid who grew up in this area, most of my summers, other than going to work with my mom once or twice a week, she worked at a local library, so that was helpful. There wasn't anything to do. There were no summer camps. It was quite honestly a list of chores, and then sitting around the house with my brothers and not getting those done. So there wasn't a lot growing up as a kid out here, and what this has been able to do for us and for our kids here, pretty amazing. If you go to the next slide, I just kind of want to. This is just, for example, what our summer learning advertising looks like for this year, and we have it kind of divided into two camps. We have the TK to fifth, and then we have 6 through 11. And they run on there's a 1 week gap in between starting them. But if you just take a moment and think about, for example, some of what was talked about, we don't run the 5 week, and partially because of staffing issues, as was mentioned in the research. We do have an obligation to run 30 days over the course of a school year. So in terms of our expanded learning during our fall break, Thanksgiving break, we run a 3-day mini camp. During spring break, we run a 5-day camp. So we run some programming throughout the year to engage families and provide relief, especially when in terms of where kids can go during these breaks, I think is very important. Given the remoteness and the isolation of some of our kids, I think that connective piece, they're not sitting at home online, they're engaging with each other in a variety of ways. Strategically speaking, and going back to thinking about that map, when this funding was first made available, I think there's a disconnect between, where people who are in support roles for school districts might think they're making suggestions. And so, when this was first presented to us as a funding source, it was very stressful. I'm not going to lie, it was worrisome. Like, how are we going to pull this off? And then when the support system, comes in and says, well, just contract it out with your local YMCA. And so then I invited those folks out and I took them on a drive, and there is nothing but open land. I'm like, tell me where my YMCA is. And there's this disconnect in what was going on. And then when you're trying to book vendors, and we are as vast as we are, and as far as it may seem from San Diego, driving from my office to the city of San Diego only is about 45 minutes on the freeway. And so you have very large school districts that you're still competing with for those vendors. And we would book a vendor and then they would cancel with us because they got 15 schools in a larger school district. And so we had those troubles early on. So I think one of the things that we just realized is our strength is in our people. And so from there, we worked on how do we build leadership capacity at our sites, people that might want to consider going into administrative programs, make them site leads, create a stipend program for that. How do we increase the pay in summer learning to incentivize that? As a smaller school district strapped with funds, we can't match the pay that larger school districts can. We don't have the economy of scale to do that. This helps make up for some of that the pay scale. So a couple of those things. What is it that is unique to a rural area that we might need to do as well? How do we bring kids together? How do we utilize our space in terms of the hiking that's local to us? Our county parks that are out here, how do we utilize that space? Looking at research around swimming, for example, rural areas have much higher drowning rates than urban areas. And so understanding that and making sure that we offer to all third graders swim lessons, and we actually bus them down about 25, 30 miles away to get swim lessons during spring break. So we're, helping families with that because there's not a lot of access to controlled swimming areas out here. So things like that, so this year we're up to, I want to say 25% of the students in our school district are engaged in summer learning. It's about 3.5 week program. So 25% versus 0 4 years ago. And I think that's a pretty great accomplishment. We are seeing some reduction in the summer slide for students who are targeted to, we make sure that kids who are struggling, we hold spots for them. We make personal contact with those families and make sure that they're invited and they're repeatedly invited to sign up for it. We also set aside a chunk for we serve 3 Native American reservations, Indian reservations. And so we set aside a chunk of spaces for the students from there. And then the tribal ed centers, they do the registration with the families, and then they send it all in kind of bulk to us. So we do some things like that where we're really kind of targeting kids, but once we also have those kids that we do know need a little bit more remediation and assistance academically, then we open it up district wide. And that's where we're able to add, because the funding in California is targeted at TK to 6. And so that's when we're able to open it up to our high school and junior high age students, is once we have made sure all of the students who the funding is designated for have been included, and then we can offer, and that's where, for example, this summer we have a college tour happening and students going on overnights up to colleges outside of the county. That's just a small summary. I'm sure we're going to get into more during the questions. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Patrick. I think it's always a bit overwhelming to hear about your context, being that's so different for many of us. And I appreciate, you're making sure that we have a clear understanding of that in order to understand the importance of the work that you're doing in your summer program. So I appreciate that very much. Dr. Julianne Bello from the Newark Board of Education, I will let you share with us your experiences, please.
Thank you. So in listening to Dr. Keeley speak about being on the West Coast and working within the constructs of a large rural district, I'm sharing with you that from Newark, New Jersey, we have a different set of challenges and parameters. So we're located in New Jersey. We are the largest urban school district in the state. We have over 67 schools operating on a daily basis. That's 17 high schools. And we service close to 40,000 students. Next slide, please. And so in my role as the director of the Office of Extended Learning, throughout the year, in conjunction with not only supporting students in schools and after school programming, I partner with another district office, the Office of Staff Development, to plan and implement summer programs, not only for our elementary students, but also our high school students. Being in a large urban district, we do have an amazing wealth of ethnic diversity within our community, and the district continues to revise its services. We are under the umbrella of an amazing 10-year historic strategic plan, and our superintendent and Board of Education feel very strongly that summer programming summer programming is a key aspect to meeting the provisions of the district's vision, which is to build a new educational ecosystem, providing a world-class education for every child in Newark. And so in the past couple of years, as we've been working with the DISLA network, achieving that vision has been a priority for us. How do we continue to hone and reshape our summer programming to meet the expectations of a world-class education? Next slide, please. So as we've continued to retool our program design, we've tried to ensure many layers to provide access for all different types of students that we service within the district. So as we've put together this portfolio of summer programming, it includes mandatory as well as voluntary programs. We provide a kindergarten boot camp for students who are making the transition from our pre-K programs into the elementary buildings, and includes opportunities all the way up for our seniors. We have specialized programming for our students who are English language learners and also our special education students. And I want to point out that within the city of Newark, we do have several private schools, charter schools, et cetera. And those students, as residents of the city, are also able to participate in our program. So it's a wonderful opportunity not only to expose students who don't currently participate in district schools to the amazing educational opportunities that we are doing within the district. In just 2 years ago, we took the opportunity to expand our enrichment programming. So as several of you were pointing out in terms of model programming, we do have an academic component in the morning that runs from 8:30 until 1 o'clock. And then we follow up with enrichment opportunities for students that last until 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And we felt that that was really responsive to not only what families needed, but what we knew worked for 10 other months of the year. And so to the point earlier about thinking about 12 months of schooling as opposed to summer programming and regular school year, that mind shift really paid off for us. We looked at what kind of resources families needed from September to June and made sure that that was also available during the summer by expanding our enrichment programs. And we do utilize all district teachers. So, being that in just a day or two, we are launching our summer program, we have about 3,000 district staff that we've hired already. Really feels sometimes like a pop-up district that we are shutting down and then reimagining and fully staffing a district full of, we utilize 10 of our high schools and 15 elementary schools beginning on June 30th. So in many ways, it is a pop-up district. In providing academics and services, we do partner with various community-based organizations, which has really been a strength of our program. And we continue to redefine those relationships to fully integrate the community partners, but also to draw on their strengths. We have consistently held to a 25-day program. In addition to providing breakfast and lunch for students who participate in the enrichment program, they also have a third meal of the day, which we know from our data is really key to families, as is having the program be completely free of cost. We do provide transportation throughout the city. And when we think about what our staff and what is the benefit to our teachers, the summer serves as a laboratory. In the past few years, we've really redefined what can happen for professional teacher growth and leadership development throughout the summer. And I'll speak more about that because it's really something that we're proud of and that we have, in a very real way, seen immediate benefits of it. Next slide, please. So here you can just see an overview of that wide variety of programming that we do have. For our elementary students, we call our academic program Summer Achieve, and students can get there through both a mandatory and a voluntary pathway. But I want to point out that in terms of being identified for that program, it is not remediation. It does follow an accelerated model, and students are identified for that program based on their need for additional contact with classroom teachers, right? As I mentioned before, we have the K-Ready Boot Camp, which is an additional support for readiness, moving from the pre-K to kindergarten grades for our young learners. English Plus is for our bilingual learners. extended school year is the extension of individual education plans for our special needs students. And we include a summer jumpstart program, which helps our middle school students transition and become familiar with their high school opportunities, since they'll be selecting a high school program in the next couple of months for themselves. One of the most exciting things that we've seen in our high school programming over the past couple of years is a huge shift from a credit recovery model to a pure acceleration and enrichment model. And that certainly is an example of thinking about summer 12 months a year, because in order to make sure that students are able to participate in accelerated courses during the summer, they need to meet their seat requirements and hourly requirements to graduate. And so our high school network did an amazing job of rethinking what happens during September through June and addressing any sort of credit concerns during those months to make sure that students then have the freedom to be taking advanced placement or enrichment classes. And that's in alignment with our high school redevelopment model. And it's been incredibly impressive and has provided just so many new opportunities for students. You can see on the list there that some of our really exciting offerings include CTE placement programs. We have our Future Business Leaders program. There are partnership programs. So many of our high schools have an area of focus within the CTE realm, and the summer program provides an opportunity for those students to dig deeper into those CTE courses. And then, of course, we do have a small component of enrichment programs that are standalone. So we have students who engage in sports camps or STEM academies. We have a visual and performing arts programming. And then our Summer Quest program is that newly designed enrichment piece that has found a great way to bring in student choice. So when we think about what makes students come back every year, what makes the program so engaging, is that our Quest program offers at least 11 courses in bowling and book club and CPR certification and drama, where students get to come in and make a selection about how they want to spend their summer. And by the time they complete the program by August 1st, they've had 6 different enrichment courses. It also has the opportunity for them to be working with students across grades, because we use a feeder pattern program, meaning that we don't open all of our buildings during the summer and instead consolidate down into 15. It's also a way to get a sense of community across the district, because in your summer location, you might be with different students than you are during the year. And additionally, that's true of teachers as well. We often refer to summer as a great opportunity for cross-pollination, where you as a teacher might be working next door to a teacher from, the other side of the city. And it's a great opportunity to share best practices and to be sitting together in professional learning opportunities and to bring together what sometimes feels like a very large district into very small, intimate spaces. Next slide, please. And so, as I was mentioning before, in the past few years, we've really taken the opportunity to leverage what happens during summer. First of all, for teachers, because inevitably summer is a great opportunity to either roll out new curriculum, to be able to in-service small batches of teachers prior to the summer so that they're able to teach it, but then continuing that development. And in a district as large as Newark, being able to run different waves of professional development is always helpful. Additionally, during the summer, we engage our teachers in curriculum design and development. It gives our content department directors the opportunity to work closely with teachers as they're tweaking different curriculum materials, updating assessments, etc. One of the great partnerships that we have is with a local university in a leadership development pipeline program. The Newark Montclair Leadership Pipeline Project is a graduate leadership development program where in the course of 2 years, our prospective leadership, leaders engage in a graduate program at the university, but one of the highlights of their program is that during the summer, they fill a teacher to assist position, which means that they act as the next in charge next to the summer principal. They collect internship hours during that time, and it is simultaneous with a graduate course that engages them in real-time reflection and case study about exactly what they're seeing in their daily work as teacher to assist. One of the other benefits that has been really amazing, and we see this every summer when we look to see who is being promoted to principal jobs within the district, is that so frequently those vice principals who have led summer buildings get critical experience in being in charge in a summer building that then gives them the opportunity and the confidence to become principals during the school year. So summer has really provided us with an amazing setting for that development. And it's certainly something that I know from the university standpoint, that providing the coaching and the feedback to the graduate students as they're going through this program outside of the context of their regular work, right? Summer provides this nice little petri dish of learning for them. And it's been a really, really positive experience. Next slide. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak about our programming in Newark.
Thank you so much, Julianne. Again, it's like this juxtaposition of what Patrick's experience are and your experience are is just a great, it's not something we have a lot of access to in terms of understanding how different districts work, particularly around this. So I appreciate you all for that. I'm going to ask to stop sharing so we can see each other because I think we've got time for like one or two questions. And I wanted to ask, I wanted to try to bring that thread from what Catherine began talking about, and then the importance and Liliana talked about, and the work that both you, Patrick and Julianne, do around sort of the opportunity that summertime presents to I don't know, the word that keeps popping into my mind, sort of like incubate teaching, incubate learning, incubate leadership development in ways that are difficult to do during sort of the traditional academic school year. And we talked, before we talked about sort of like the summer as potential learning labs and opportunities for teachers and students to engage when learning and with each other differently. And the importance of that to sort of having an effective summertime experience, right? So I don't know if Patrick or Julianne, you could kick us off with maybe some element of that kind of innovation, perhaps, that is happening in your summertime learning that you didn't have a chance to tell us more about.
Well, I think first of all, teachers are natural creators, and sometimes during the school year, I think some teachers will feel pressed by curriculum guides, things like this, and this is their way for some of them to expand on their creativity, which can also lead into how they might do things during the school year. In terms of developing our staff, we do have a couple of days of planning prior to each session, but we also have staff who are identified as site leads, and they work throughout the year on developing the summer learning, the breaks, the two small camps that we do, and also in kind of planning the entire event, the master schedule for it, every enrichment activity. So, in terms of the varying degrees, for some staff, they get a little bit more work on reading curriculum and things throughout the summer, but for others, it might also include that leadership development and for them.
I can add that in our study, one thing that teachers really appreciated was getting to use a curriculum in the summer before they would use it in the school year. So they got to preview it and test it, play around with it. And a lot of the leaders of the individual campsites, they were called camps, were administrators who needed leadership hours in order to be a principal or apply to be a principal. So they were able to get that. That was an incentive for them to want to lead these programs. And then they were able to get the experience that they needed to apply to be a school principal.
I can circle back to the idea of that cross-pollination. In a large district like Newark, we actually have the school district divided into little networks so that there are clusters of schools. And during the summer, there is really that opportunity for intermixing, right? And so I think, and I've heard this anecdotally from teachers, that the opportunity to work outside of your network, to work with a different leader, a different vice principal, a different principal, is something that our teachers really enjoy. And then the other piece I would say is that because the district is so large, we have a more stratified, excuse me, a more stratified hierarchy of different administrative positions. So there are more opportunities for teachers in the district beyond just becoming a vice principal or a principal or potentially a supervisor or a director. And so because the summer requires people to work outside of what they normally do during the year, it really cultivates teacher leadership. So when we are nurturing teacher coaches, when we're nurturing coordinators for after school programming, inevitably they come from these summer experiences. And it's recursive in that so many of my after school program teacher leaders are so eager to get more experience during the summer in those outside of the classroom roles. So I think in terms of innovation and opportunities for teachers, because we're looking to do innovative things for students, it naturally provides innovative opportunities for teachers to create, for teachers to lead in different ways, and even for them to be owners of course and content. In our enrichment program, we've asked teachers, I'm no bowling expert, so we tapped into teachers who were the city champion bowling coach to write activity plans. And it provides that level of ownership for them, and it's terrific.
Liliana, I'd be curious to sort of your thoughts on how you support districts and in their planning to think about this time in creative ways.
Absolutely. Just building on what's been shared, I think what we learned was most effective over the 3.5 years of the network was when districts were able to see summer as a space to advance what was already important to the district, whether it was, specific academic goals, goals around family engagement, thinking about, how do we address our leadership pipeline, our teacher pipeline. And I think what you're hearing are examples of how to maximize that time to uh, best meet the needs of students and families, but also be very strategic and intentional about how to organize the time for adults and staff across the district to be able to move the needle on things that already mattered and are really important, not just in summer, but to the school year. I've heard more than one district leader talk about summer as the back door to the school year, and that has really stayed with me in terms of how folks are thinking about that time period.
And I remember, I think in our previous conversation, Patrick, you talked about like planning for the next summer begins in as you're closing up the current summer, right? Which I think is also again just testament to how this is part of a 12-month learning engagement, learning opportunities for, for kids, for students and for teachers. And I know, Patrick, I think Julianne, you said you're starting your summer program this week. And Patrick, I think you're in your summer program already. And so I know you're just at the brink of your summer implementation of your year-long planning, but I'm curious as to from your perspective right now, how would you define like what a successful summer was for your kids and your teachers?
Well, you know, superintendents always have to try to define success. So I leave it up to our parents and our students. We do post surveys for staff, for parents, for students,
Mm.
3 separate post surveys, and we build from there to improve and enhance. Uh, this is work overall that I'm proud of. As a superintendent, I'm proud of the people that have stepped up. Um, again, as in my earlier comments, I was very worried about how we were going to pull this off. And it is far exceeded, in terms of opportunity for people, for kids. Anything from an enrichment field trip to an experience to the academic piece to the connection piece as a whole community. So there's one of the days where we bring all of the elementaries together and the high school and the junior high. We bring all of the students together and do a big field day. When I think back to the Power Up camps when we had that um, on the fly, we created leadership opportunities for juniors and seniors in high school to come and help lead groups for students. So they had a place to go, but also to engage and do reading groups and small little fitness classes and such. So, the success, it's on one end, obviously you can try to measure it. On the other, during our spring break camp, we had one day where, there's a place called Lake Marina County Park, 8 miles down the road here. For some students, they only live a 10 or 12-minute drive. We took 250 students to that during spring break. About 90% of them had never even been to a county park in their own community. So success can be defined in a lot of ways. And we'll leave the success on the doorstep of those post surveys and monitoring those scores of the students who participate in the academic pieces and how they continue to progress and improve their scores and their abilities.
I think especially since we redesigned the high school programming, we really put a lot of weight into attendance in terms of students who are opting into programs, right? So, with the understanding that in some cases, when you have a young child, a family is opting to have their younger children participate in summer programming from a student supervision and safety perspective, right? So we certainly do look at consistent attendance. We look at how many students will be concluding their summer with those additional seat hours that they earned in an enrichment class. We look at student product. All students are engaged in creating summer portfolios that are a demonstration of student knowledge. So that'll be a nice way to come back and look at how students spent their summer and what new skills they learned. For our staff, I happen to be the course professor for the internship class that our students in the leadership pipeline will take. And so I'm speaking to them constantly and helping them make sense of what's happening within their summer programming, but watching them learn the leadership dispositions as they apply that practical experience into an understanding of the work that a leader does, right? So that is always a sign of success for me. And then additionally, as I mentioned, we do get surveys and feedback from parents and from our families and from our teachers and from our summer leaders. And that's what we use to continue to push to be better each year. And so I'm really interested to see how the feedback that we got last year and the tweaks that we made, how they improved the user experience for our families, our children, our teachers, and then to just continue that cycle.
I think maybe my last question, if I can pitch this over to Catherine and Liliana, because UCEA is a consortium of programs and universities that specialize in leadership preparation, either the certificate or the doctoral level. And so, as I think about the summer coursework that we do, what are ways, or maybe perhaps what advice you might give to faculty who are thinking about preparing principals for this sort of wraparound, understanding of learning in schools, in and out of schools, actually. And so, what would you say, besides reading the research, what would you say would be a good thing to include or to engage aspiring leaders in a conversation about summertime?
Well, I would say to visit a summer program if you're gathering future leaders together during the summer anyway. there's nothing like seeing it in action, and also visiting for an entire day, because summer programs look very different if you're looking at an academic classroom versus an enrichment activity versus the lunchtime and recess and hallways. And whoever's leading that program, whoever's the director of that program, needs to have staff for all of those, transition times and lunch duties and recess duties. And ideally, as I said earlier, you really want these programs to be a place of warmth where students feel valued and cared for. And that takes a lot of strategy on the behalf of a leader to figure out how to staff, how to train, how to keep the train moving on time, how to, provide the curriculum and make sure teachers are ready to use it. And there's no better way than seeing it all in action to start dissecting it and thinking about each of those components.
Yeah, to build on that, I actually want to lift up two important areas that I don't think we talked about as much. One, and this looks different, I think, in every community, as we heard from Dr. Keeley, is to really understand who is in your community. These summer programs can't operate in a vacuum. And so it may not be a YMCA, but it might be a local faith-based organization that maybe has the capacity to partner and run programming. We know that sustainability and resources are top of mind. And so getting to know who in the community shares that vision around providing enriching, fun, engaging learning for students, whether it's after school or during the summer, is super important. Um, and I will say that the second is talk to students. I think that there's there's not as much research on the high school side of this, I think, as we all would want. And I think really having an opportunity to sit with young people and understand what they hope to do in the summers and what kind of opportunities are available to them is a really important part of shaping programming that both speaks to the need, but is sort of evolving in real time. And when you hear of the surveys that both Patrick and Julianne talked about, part of the purpose of that is to see, were people satisfied? Were they engaged? But it's also to gather feedback on what can we do to continuously improve and make sure that we keep students and families coming back. So I would say understanding what partnerships look like in your community and talking to students to understand what they want to see and what they want to learn is a really important piece.
Well, thank you all so very, very much. I could talk about this for at least another hour, but time is precious. I very much appreciate you taking time to share in an area that I think when we first began talking, that not an area that UCA has spent a lot of time trying to understand, and like I said, sort of particularly like how might we think about preparing leaders to go into contexts to ask the kinds of questions that you just posed, Liliana, but then also be thinking about learning as a 12-month endeavor. So I very much appreciate that. I think we're going to have an accompanying primer where we synthesized a lot of the research that Wallace has done around summer learning to accompany this webinar. And I think that has also been a great learning curve and experience for us. So again, I appreciate all of you so very much for the amazing work that you're doing and for taking time out to share that with us. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Having us.
Thank you.
Have a great summer programs, you all.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Exactly. Have fun, hopefully, too, right?